episode of These Go to 11. Let's turn it up. Hey everybody, welcome back to These Go to 11, an unchurchy conversation about everyday faith. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and review on your favorite podcast platform. This not only helps us to get our content out there, but also helps us to find out what you, our faithful listeners, think. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to These Go to 11. Once again, I'm Nathan Bell. Joining me as always, Greg Dutcher. Greg, what's going on, man?
Dude, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little traumatized. I'm a little traumatized because of our pre-recording conversation. I'm debating whether we even continue, to be honest.
Greg, the show must go on.
I know, but I feel like I was all excited about this guest, and I know he's a great dude, but I mean, honestly, dude, he took childhood hopes, childhood innocence, and just thrashed it to pieces. But we'll get to that. But you introduce our guest, and I'll cry for myself here.
Yeah, this is not a new guest that we've had on. However, Greg, he is new for you because the last time he was on, we had one Mr. Zach Bartles as the host of this podcast. That's right. And that is Ted Kluck joining us today. Ted, how you doing, man?
I'm good, boys. I'm good. Happy to be here. Sorry to have robbed Greg's innocence with my Indianapolis Colts talking a little Hoosier Dome. But yeah, that was a sore spot for the boys. So we'll only take that as far as he wants to take it.
I'll tell you what. I'll put it right out there, because it was too. In some ways, it's got to be right providential.
That's all right.
Because here I'm thinking, who would know this, right? But
Greg, we spent our series in May. Of course, this episode's dropping in June. We spent our series in May talking about peacemakers, forgiveness, and restitution. And so, Greg, I want you to take these next few minutes here to just, show Ted how much you forgive him for having absolutely nothing to do with the Colts leaving.
Yeah,
that's right.
You know what? It's good counsel, Nathan. I'm going to scrap all that and just nurse a grudge. I think I'm just
just carry that bitterness around, man. That'll do just the trick. I've certainly done that with other things in my life.
Me too, man. Especially with sports, dude. Honestly,
absolutely.
There needs to be a whole specialized section of sermon giving, sermon preaching for sports fans, because I'm telling you.
Well, you know what?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
we could write. Exactly. You could write the book about it. We're talking about writing tonight, so you could actually write that.
I should, man.
Pastoral tome.
I got to live it first. But, for our audience, just really quick, I was telling Ted, knowing I was so excited because Ted is a sports guy, as he'll tell us in a bit. But Nathan. Man, we are as thick as thieves, my man, but we don't share the love for the same kind of sports.
We don't. And out of service to you, Greg, I'm gonna set the timer here. I'm gonna give you and Ted 5 minutes.
Oh wow!
Okay, 5 minutes to go all sports out, discuss all the things going on.
Yep.
That's happening with the baseball stuff and the football stuff. Ted, are you a baseball guy? I can't remember.
You know what, man? I am a baseball guy in as much as I really love the sport. I really respect the sport. As I've gotten older, I've really kind of gotten into watching it on TV, but I don't have like a rooting interest, and I'm not like that passionate about it, but I just enjoy having it in my life, if that makes sense. It's like an old friend.
I know what you mean. No, honestly, it's like a comfortable pair of slippers, right? It's just there.
Yeah, that's it.
It's all the stuff like in Moneyball. How can you not be romantic about this game? There's so much lore to it and all that. But it has
the best movies. Moneyball, far and away one of the best sports movies of all time. Field of Dreams. We could go on and on.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Baseball movie.
Yeah.
Well, Ted and I found out that he was on the receiving end of blessing. I got the curse. My dad, I was for our audience, had the privilege. Little gig he got in the 70s because of his cousin Chip, who was an NFL exec of some sort. Got my dad this sweet gig where he was at every home game. This is probably from like 1975 onward here in Baltimore. His job was to line up the players of the opposing team. So he's got a ton of autographs from big players at that time, and Bradshaw, a whole bunch of people that he met in that era. And he was able to take a guest with him to games, but you had to be 14. So my brother went a bunch of times. And then I turned 14 in 1984 when all Baltimore fans know the Mayflower trucks, moving company, packed up the Colts. Irsay called them out there to some wicked place in the middle of nowhere, Indianapolis, I think it was. So I'm dropping this on Ted. And Ted,
A.K.A. Babylon.
Yes. And Ted, chime in here. What was your experience of that moment?
Well, man, little 8-year-old Teddy was just praying for a pro football team in Indianapolis. And the great Bob Irsay must have heard my prayers and moved your franchise out of Baltimore. Baltimore, all kidding aside, great football town, tremendous fan base, tremendous football town, but moved it to Indianapolis into the Hoosier Dome.
Yes.
And I thought like miracles really did happen. I was so delighted. I was 8 years old, which is the right age for that sort of thing. You're still kind of, starstruck about it and believing in it. And my dad would take me to like one game every year. We would travel down to the Hoosier Dome and sit there, and I would dream. And my dad was an old football player and he loved it. And we would go to training camp practices back before that was a circus. It's an absolute gong show and a circus now. But back then, man, there were like 50 diehards there just kind of wandering around, and we watched the linemen, and it was incredible memories, incredible experience. I got to work one summer in high school as a ball boy for a Colts training camp, which was a thrill, and signed my first autograph in that context. Wow. This is, maybe a funny story. It was a little bit of my own sin nature. So, I'm a bigger guy. I was a high school football player and was about to head off to college to play and kind of looked the part. And I was on a field training one night. I was like running sprints by myself in team gear. And in my own broken, like fleshly, before Christ sort of way, I thought that signing an autograph would like be the most transcendent thing in the entire world, and it would validate my whole existence, and it would prove that I was on the planet, that I mattered to somebody, so like this was my mindset. And so I'm walking off the field one night, and this car full of like towny high school girls pulls up, and they thought I was a player, to their untrained eye I was like a Colts player because I had the team gear on and stuff. And they rolled down the window and they asked for my autograph. And I thought in that moment, I could be a man of integrity and tell them that I'm a high school kid from down the road at Blackford High, But instead, I just signed the autograph. I wanted to see what it would feel like. It felt pretty good, not gonna lie. But
that's incredible.
Yeah, that's my Colts training camp story.
Dude, that's like a Seinfeld moment. You almost hear you say,
totally.
In that moment, I was a marine biologist. That's what
that's it. Yeah, it was very Costanza moment for me.
That is gold, Ted. And you were telling me before we recorded, of course, I'm being a huge Ravens fan. John Harbaugh is a beloved coach here, and he's, other than Tomlin, I mean, I guess Belichick had the longest tenure until this year. Harbaugh was number 3, and of course his brother Jim, who's had quite an illustrious career and is heading out west again to coach the Chargers. He was, I believe, the first quarterback of that team in Indy. And you had
no, he wasn't. He was about a decade later. So the first quarterback was a guy named Gary Hogeboom out of Central Michigan via the Dallas Cowboys. We got him in '84 on the Colts. He was our quarterback.
Yes.
But the Harbaugh years rolled around in like 92, 93,
You're right.
94.
You're right. They were 90s, of course.
Yeah, and so that's when I was in high school. And so, Jim was our quarterback then, and I would warm him up before practice, catching balls, and then afterward we would sign autographs together. Like the two celebrities that we were. So he had to share the limelight with me. I'm sure that was very hard for him. But
now, Ted, what I want to know is, has your net worth paralleled Jim Harbaugh's? Since that time.
Well, I mean, really, you look at all that I've done in publishing, boys, and I mean, I don't like to talk about money. It wouldn't be polite, but same kind of maniacal competitiveness.
Yes,
we've landed in similar places.
I'm sure, man.
Seen a lot of things in this business, boys. I don't know.
Well, Ted, I'm sure we've pushed the 5 minutes, but I have to ask you for my son, who's going to be excited that you were on this podcast. Isaac is 17. He's a huge football guy. Oh, I got a quick little story on this one too. I have to get this, and you'll appreciate this, Ted. When I was like 21, this is probably 91, there was a guy named Ed Scoggins, who's long since passed on. Old school church guy here in Baltimore. He'd been around a long time. He was one of the architects of, I don't think this exists anymore. It was called the Baltimore Sunday School Convention. So, I mean, that's a blast from the past. It was keynoted one year by David Jeremiah, who brought his kid with him. And they asked me, Ed said, hey, he's a big sports fan. He was about 14 at the time. And would you just hang out with him for the day and talk? So I think actually it might have been 92 because Camden Yards, that was the year it opened. So we talked about Camden Yards. He was going to see a game that night, etc. And you know who that was now, right?
Of course,
that's Daniel Jeremiah, who so my son keeps, Dad, you've got to call him. I said, oh, I'm sure he's remembering that day.
Yeah, for sure.
1992, where this guy, basically hung out with him for 5 hours and talked to him about it. But, I think, didn't he have somewhat of a college career or a short-lived college career?
He played a little bit at Wake Forest, I think. Or no, not Wake Forest, Appalachian State.
It was.
He's a big Appalachian State guy. I knew it was a black and gold team out that way. So, App State, I think he played a little quarterback. But congratulations to you on being the first person I've ever heard reference Dr. David Jeremiah without saying the full Dr. David Jeremiah. My mom, every time she refers to him, she says Dr. David Jeremiah.
Dude,
it's a bit of a deal.
That is so right, man. Everybody
he's one of those Dr. three name guys. He gets them all in there. Yeah.
Ted, that is wild. And Nathan, I pushed one more thing. Ted, who's your favorite football team? I have to know. Because I don't know.
What? It's funny, man. Like, we talked about this a little bit off the air. So I've got a little bit of Colts in there, a little bit of Bears, because my parents both hail from Chicago. So I love the Bears growing up. And then, of course, the Colts when we got them. But in adulthood, I've really kind of gravitated toward the Pats.
Oh, okay,
because I loved Belichick.
Yeah.
I just found him fascinating in his coaching and his adapting and his press conferences and the way he did personnel. I just thought all of it was really fascinating. So I know that's going to not curry favor with many of your listeners, but
you know what?
I find that Christians hate Belichick.
Yes, I mean, if you were saying pro Pittsburgh stuff, that would not go over well here. But New England, there was a time. Hey, Baltimore back in the day in the Ray Lewis era. They played the Patriots tough. We won a few battles, lost a few battles.
Absolutely.
They were great battles there in Foxborough.
Dude, you know who my favorite random old Raven is?
Yeah.
Late career Vinny Testaverde.
Oh, yeah.
You guys had Vinny in the mid-90s.
We did,
he was
96.
awesome. He had figured it out by then, and that was kind of a fun deal.
Dude, he was chucking that ball all over the field because the first 2 or 3 years we had no offense at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, no defense. I mean, you had a young Ray Lewis, but he wasn't Ray yet. And Reed was still a couple of years, away from being here in that insane 2000 defense. But Vinny was just running around, tossing balls to Michael Jackson.
Exactly. So fun.
It was incredible. So, all right, Nathan, cut us off, dude, because I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop. Finally, we get Ted on here, and it is great. No, I'll transition. Ted, you got your start writing. See how I did this?
There you go.
Sports
It's
writing,
almost like
correct?
You're a professional, Greg.
Yeah, professional podcast.
Yeah, that's right, man. I got a little break in the kind of early 2000s writing some humor for ESPN the magazine back when magazines were a big deal.
Yes.
They had found a sports satire thing that I'd started with some buddies from college, and they found it. They gave me a shot, and that grew into bigger things and some features and some bigger stuff in the magazine. And then that grew into a whole bunch of other stuff. And then eventually a book about the boxer Mike Tyson in like 2005, 2006. And that really kind of kicked off the whole thing. So yeah, it was a wild ride. I mean, writing is one of those things where, you know, I teach it now. So I teach it at the college level and I love it. I've made it my life's work, but there's no kind of linear path, and like everybody's path to whatever it is you're going to be in writing looks a little bit different. So I definitely hacked a way forward out of nothing there, it seemed like. And the Lord was very, very kind to me along the way and kept giving me opportunities. And, you know, it was a fun ride for sure.
Awesome, Ted.
Yeah.
Hey, tell us, just for the sake of our audience, where you teach, what you teach, what your kind of life rhythm looks like right now.
Yeah, so I teach journalism at a school called Union University. We're a Southern Baptist school here, you know, in West Tennessee. We've got about 3,000 students. And I got to tell you guys, I never saw myself in academia. So that was new. But I've been here 9 years, and I hope it's the last stop in my career. I absolutely love it. I love teaching. I love teaching writing. So when I got here, I think there were like 2 kids in the journalism major, and it was kind of on the death rattle. But by God's grace, now we've got like 25 kids in the major, and we've won a bunch of awards for our magazine year in and year out, and feature writing, and the kids are really doing amazing work. And it's a very cool thing to be a part of. And kind of what's unique about it is that I never thought I wanted to work for a Christian college, because I thought I wanted to go to like a big secular school and be salt and light, you know, and the Lord had other plans. I ended up at Union, and it's still, He gives me opportunities to share the gospel and do discipleship. And it's such a fertile ground for those kind of conversations. And I'm just super, super grateful for it. Love it. Love being here. Everybody should check it out. uu.edu. In fact, I think if they apply at uu.edu with the promo code Kluck, their application is free.
Yeah.
This was a podcast promo that we did a long time ago.
Dude, are you serious?
Yeah, and I think they never changed the website. So if you want to apply for free to Union,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Just use the promo code Kluck at checkout, and you'll be able to do it for free.
Well, sit back here, Ted, and take in the praise, because I went to your Rate My Professor.
Oh, no.
I'm looking what they're saying about Mr. Kluck here, and I love this one. How about this? 5.0, highest rating. Difficulty 1.0, which means Ted's classes are fun. And it says,
they are fun, dude.
It says, Kluck is wonderful. Such a deeply caring, relational person who wants to be your friend. He loves to hang out, hear about your life, and laugh. If you're late to class, buy him a coffee, and all is forgiven. Oh!
That's it.
And it says
that's my tardiness policy, man. It has been since day one.
Dude, I absolutely love it, man. And and you've been there doing this for 9 years. And so let me ask you, Ted, you're full time there?
I am. Yeah, wow. I'm full time, and you know, it came at a time of life where I'd done a bunch of books and had some success, but then had some lean years. And you know, the book business is completely erratic. Nobody knows how to sell a book to this day. It's just kind of, you know, luck and magic and who knows what else. So, you know, we had kind of ridden that roller coaster for like 15 years of being completely eat what you kill freelance, which was really fun, but really stressful. You know, we were paying for our own health insurance, and we had adopted a couple of kids, and I just needed some stability in my life. And kind of discovered later in life and later in my career. So I would have been in my early 30s, I guess, when this little community college in Michigan gave me an opportunity to teach. And I didn't even have a master's at that time, but they let me do it, I guess, because of the books. And I loved it. Like, I kind of fell in love with it and fell in love with the classroom. And so I went to grad school much later in life than most people. I was like mid-30s when I got out of grad school, and then came down and started doing this. So, it's kind of a surprisingly good fit for me, I think. I enjoy the kids and their energy, and I still love the craft, so it gets me excited. reading great books and great articles and talking about the craft with them. And I still get to practice. I still get to do my own writing, and it's pretty cool.
That's awesome, Ted. I have to say, you're making an old man being a little bit older than you feel worse. I'm doing a writing degree now.
Good for you.
I'm doing an MFA at Wilkes in PA. It's a low residency program. So
that's what I did.
Yeah,
exact same thing.
Now where did you do yours, Ted?
I did mine. This was right at the beginning of like low res MFAs. So this started becoming a thing 15 years ago or so. And I did mine at a school in Ohio called Ashland University.
Yeah.
So Ashland offered a low res MFA, and it just worked with, my life and my lifestyle and my work. And it was, when we did it, it was the type of thing where you would go out for like a couple of weeks in the summer.
Yeah.
And then do everything else online during the school years. And it just worked out pretty well. So have you been out to a cohort yet?
Yeah. I'm actually, the way Wilkes does it, they give, I'm going to get my MA in a month. So you get your MA after a year and a half. So this will be my, fourth cohort. Because I started January. It's 8 days in January, 8 days in June. So it sounds like a very, very similar approach. And so some people stop at the MA, but I'm going to do the full extra year. So it'll be 2.5 years. So I'll do 2 more cohorts essentially with the classes online and get the MFA. But we've got similar interests, Ted. I'm late in the process. My church has been wonderful to me. I would love, if God has it for me, to get to a point. I pastor right now the church that Nathan and I are both a part of. I've been here for 21 years. If I was ever in a spot I could teach full time and was essentially like the kind of founding DNA preaching pastor of the church, that might be something that could open up if God has that. So I teach at Towson right now. I teach public speaking, and I'm doing writing courses at what's called what is it called, Nathan? CCBC, Community College of Baltimore County. Yeah. So they've got
right on.
So that's been a lot of fun. So.
That's great, man.
I'll tell you what's cool, Ted. I came home so fired up about it. My daughter, who was 24 at the time, who's kind of, she graduated Washington and Lee, kind of got bumped around with COVID, not sure what she wanted to do. I came home so jazzed. She kind of made fun of me and said, "Dad, you're just having a midlife crisis."
Totally.
Probably I am. And she just... about a month later said, "Dad, would I cramp your style if I did it?" So she's a cohort behind me, dude. So,
dude, no way. You guys are living Rodney Dangerfield's classic Back to School. Do you feel that dynamic? Are you like the...
Yes, I'm trying to do my, what was that dive in that? The triple
Lindy.
The triple Lindy.
Triple Lindy.
I'm trying to get my triple Lindy down. And I'll tell you what's great is David Hicks, who's my program director, when Sam, my daughter, got in, he said, "Listen, Greg, it was a blind read. Didn't want anybody to see the names since you were already in our program and all that. So they gave her all her props and everything. And her first cohort, I would wander over to her group and hang out. And whenever he saw us, he would grab me and he would just say, "You go, get out of here. Let her have her own experience." Her second cohort, my third, he was pretty chill at that point, but. It's I love it, dude. The back to school reference you just dropped is
outstanding.
But I'll tell you, Ted, to drive up there with her and just talk all week. We see each other here and there. Yeah. But it's been a blast. So that's what you did. That's awesome.
That time with your kid is priceless, man. So one of the blessings of teaching at Union, my oldest son Tristan is a junior there.
Wow.
So we have lunch together every week. We lift together. We spar together. And just being able to see him, a couple times a week on campus is such an encouragement, and it's a gift from the Lord, and just absolutely love it. So, tell me, Greg, about your writing program. like, what are you doing that you're getting a kick out of? Are you reading stuff that you're psyched about? Like, what's kind of firing you up about it at this point?
It's awesome, Ted. I thought I would go up there and probably do nonfiction, because I've written a little bit of nonfiction. Now, Ted, you're going to downplay your writing career, but Nathan and I were looking at your books, and you've written quite a bit, which we want to talk about. I wrote 3 small little Christian books. I had 2 done by Discovery House, and one done by Cruciform, and that was 10 years ago. 2012, I think, is when my last one came out. And sort of ran out of steam. Just kind of but I've always loved writing, and thought I might get back into it someday. And then the teaching thing kind of lit my fire a little bit. And I started looking, all right, I'm way too old to get a PhD. And the money, the time, I thought, no way. But the MFA, it's a terminal degree. I've talked to some people about it and thought, what the heck? I'll just jump on that. So I thought I'd go up. And the way Wilkes does, you do all 5 tracks. They kind of expose you to poetry, which is ridiculous for me. Poetry, which I love, but I could never do it. Playwriting, screenplay, fiction, nonfiction, and then you're supposed to do your 2 classes for your foundation, and then you choose one. But I kind of did screenplay as the fun one, because you get to watch movies. So actually, dude, that's what I kind of focused on. I had no idea how to write a screenplay.
Oh, good for you, man. That's awesome.
That's what I'm writing. My wife says, "Oh, do I really have to tell people my husband is writing a screenplay?" I mean, in one sense, it doesn't matter, because it's just the thesis project, right?
Sure,
and it's going to say creative writing no matter what.
Yep.
So for the MFA program, I'm still thinking it through. I could shift and focus on nonfiction. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out. But what did you do, Ted, at yours?
Yeah, I did creative nonfiction. So, and that was always the genre that I wrote in. So by the time I did my MFA, I'd probably already written 6 or 7 books.
Right.
And most of them were, the long interview, memoir. So I'd already kind of done the creative nonfiction thing. And it's funny, I went into it kind of a little bit jaundiced. I was just like, this is a hoop I got to jump through. What are they going to teach me? But I loved it, dude. It was like writing camp for me, and I learned a ton, because I kind of jacked around and didn't learn anything in school like my first time around. Right. So undergrad was a bit of a wash for me. So the MFA was a blast. It was super fun. It was even fun to like hang out with the poetry kids and like try my hand at that. And it's good. And I'm teaching a screenwriting class right now. So
no way.
I love it. That's a super fun thing, for you to learn how to do, and you're probably having a blast with it.
I'm having such a blast, Ted. So are you using Final Draft? Is that the
and there's a couple of free ones that like perform like Final Draft. So I'll let the kids use the free ones if they want to do that. But we're learning all about formatting and story and dialogue, and it's really, I think the thing that you appreciate about writing movies, it's way harder than it looks, right?
Yeah.
So everybody has this experience of like watching movies and thinking that they understand story and dialogue, but then when you sit down with a blank page, it's a much tougher thing.
Wow, Ted, I'm going to be picking your brain well beyond this podcast. Nathan,
I hope so.
Nathan, are you bored out of your mind yet that I'm geeking out with Ted?
No, this is
dude.
Great.
We gotta like throw some lobs to Nathan here. So let's point guard this thing and like let's give him a couple layups and build his confidence.
Right. That's right, Nathan. Throw it out there, dude. You're thinking, guys, how do I be assured of my eternal salvation?
No, this is great. I'm really enjoying listening to this. Greg will tell you, I'm a huge movie guy, TV show guy. So Greg will come in with new pieces of his screenplay and talk to me about certain things. So we'll sit down for hours sometimes and geek out over that.
All right. So Nathan, give me 30 seconds on like a TV thing that you're enjoying recently?
Yeah. So actually, in April, Greg and I just did a whole thing on shows and movies.
Yeah.
So one of the ones that he and I both watched, I don't know if you've seen this one or not, Ted, but The Bear on FX.
Oh, dude, I'm crazy about The Bear.
It's so good.
I love The Bear. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So he and I, we actually dedicated a whole podcast to that one. So I absolutely,
Love it.
I loved it. I thought all of the characters in there, like there wasn't one wasted moment. Even the points where I might look back and be like, man, that felt, like where you could say that felt slower. It actually wasn't.
Yeah.
It did a lot to really improve it. The monologues that they set up. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of monologuing, but this was just every monologue they had was spot on. So
good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an absolute beauty. Let's go rapid fire. Favorite Bear characters for each of you.
Ooh,
who did you like the most?
Mine's Cousin.
Mine too, dude. I'm a huge Richie Jaramovich guy. Love that guy.
So good.
Yeah. I would have to say I think Bear was probably my favorite just in terms of everything he was going through, but I think in terms of my favorite growth character, I think it was Cousin.
Yeah.
Oh,
unbelievable character.
Yeah, he's so good, dude. And
you really like them all, though. You like being with them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You do. And I think the third season, doesn't it come out? It's supposed to come out this year, I thought.
Yeah, I think it's this summer. I think it's like June or July, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. And when we did that one, that we caveated that to death, right, Nathan? We made sure we covered for our listeners, a lot of folks from the church. There's some language. There's really no sex.
No.
It's. I mean, the language and the themes, are the things that you kind of have to flag for your concerned listening audience. But I mean, what a brilliant, unique show, and that, without giving it away, the episode Fishes, right, the one everyone talks about that had the explosion of guest stars, had to be the most immersive thing I've seen in years. Yeah, because
I mean, if what you're trying to do as a writer is sort of give an honest glimpse into the human experience, they have done it. You know, they did a great thing with that. And, I think you watch it and you're entertained, you think, it kind of inspires you to want to know and be known. And, tremendous job.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I got to tell you boys about a thing I'm watching now, because you're gonna dig this if you dug The Bear. So my wife and I are into these like foreign police procedurals.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're into this show. It's Scottish. It's called Guilt. Ooh. Have you guys seen or heard of Guilt?
No.
Yeah, there's 3 seasons of it. It's on like the PBS Masterpiece Classics or whatever. But it's about these guys, these 2 brothers from Scotland. One of them's like a well-heeled lawyer, and one of them runs a record store, like a used vinyl shop. And they accidentally hit somebody with their car. And they attempt to cover it up and make like they didn't do it. And it's just this really interesting meditation on like how sin kind of begets more sin. And, they get deeper and deeper into this thing, and there are other people involved, and it's fascinating. Also fun to be with, though, in that way of like good character work, where you can take a heavy thing and kind of make it pleasant to be with. But check it out if you get a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you like, what is it called? BritBox, I think. Isn't that what a lot of people use to watch a lot of the... Yeah,
that's what Joy and I use.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And my dad...
no, I haven't used it, but I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, my dad put us on the one called Happy Valley. I don't know if you've ever seen...
No, never heard of it.
Dude, it's gold. I mean, it's 3 seasons. I don't know if they're going to make new ones, but I can't remember the actress's name, but apparently she's one of the most well-known British TV actresses. Of course, I can't remember her name because I'm a good old-fashioned American boy here, not remembering our British friends. But Happy Valley.
Typical American. I'm just kidding.
Oh, but it's so true.
It's so true. So Ted, tell us what have you been working? Are you working on a project now actively that you can share, or would you have to kill us?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have to kill you at all. Good. So what's interesting is that, like, I'm not as frisky to do books anymore, and not that I've wound it down. Like if the right thing came along, I would definitely do it. And, I'm working now on. I've got a movie in post production. So I'm screenwriter and co-producer on this thing called Silver Dome, which we've been working on for years. Honestly, it was kind of it's equal parts a thing that I love and also a millstone around my neck, if that makes sense. But it's like 85% done. So we shot in the old Pontiac Silverdome in Detroit. Speaking of old football things and old stadiums, and I had written this story about a guy who, in the midst of like middle-age existential crisis, leaves his family and goes to live as a squatter at his old stadium. So the stadium where he used to play as a pro football player. And, the wife finds him there, and the movie is really just like them walking and talking and reconciling in the stadium. So it's a real kind of production friendly. It's a feature length drama. It'll be a couple hours, and it was kind of serendipitous in terms of the way that it came about. So one of my really good friends is a guy named Glenn Pakulak, who punted in the NFL for a handful of years and is unspeakably handsome. And he's an actor. So, and his best friend is Cliff Kingsbury, who was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah. So Cliff, was our main investor in the project. So we crewed it up and started a little company and made Silverdome, and now we're picking our way through editing and post-production and maybe shooting a couple more scenes and doing all that stuff. So, wild ride making a movie with your friends. Yeah. One of my really good friends from Michigan was the producer, a guy named Chris, great guy. And so it was really kind of a small team, a small team, and yet you realize how like ragingly collaborative the movie business is, Wow. So, but we've got a really beautiful picture. I mean, it's gorgeous, and our cinematographer, a guy named Travis, did an amazing job with it, and it's going to be a beautiful movie. But we just got to get that finished, and then working on potentially adapting one of my other books into a documentary. Yeah. Got a call from some guys about doing that this summer, and can't really say more, but it's a boxing related project. So I would be very fired up about that if it were to pop. So kind of working on some film type stuff now, and writing wise, I write these little columns over at like World. Yeah. So it used to be World Magazine. Now it's online. It's online. Yeah, so I kind of get a kick out of that. I'm loving the like 800 word column. Yeah. You can just kind of, a thing happens, you can kind of bang it out, put a little scene and character and atmosphere and stuff in it, and then send it out into the world. So that's fun. So just some stuff like that.
Ted, let's go back, because Nathan could tell I'm about to explode because I'm so excited. Yeah. Because you are just resonating with me so much, and as a dude much further along the process. So Silverdome is going. Yeah. When is this thing gonna be out? When can we see it?
Oh man, I wish I could say. Yeah, I wish I could say. I mean, it's one of those things where, and this is the collaborative part, right? So if it were up to me, maybe I could call it done. Yeah. We've got a rough cut. We could do a fine cut. We've got music. We've kind of got, to me, everything we need to call the story done. Yeah. But there are some guys on our team that want to shoot a couple more scenes and put kind of an epilogue-ish thing on it. And there's production related reasons to want to do that. Like, namely, we got another round of investment capital, and it would allow us to put somebody more famous in the picture so that we can put that person's name on the poster and have a better shot at distribution, right? Yeah. Because you're kind of working that calculus. So our lead actress in Silverdome was in a show called Breaking Bad, the AMC show Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I've heard of that show.
And yeah, kind of a big show. It was around for a little while, made a blip, you know. So she was in Breaking Bad, so that helps. And one of our other guys was in Chicago Fire and some network shows. So we've got some legitimacy to it, but shooting some of this epilogue stuff will allow us to get hopefully a real big name in there, which will kind of give a boost to distribution. So that's that's the headspace we're in, and I wish I could tell you exactly when it was going to come out and where. But
no, dude, that's wow.
I think it's the kind of thing that will make money, and it'll, Lord willing, we'll pay our investors back and have a little bit off the top for ourselves. But it's tough making an independent film, and this is like, if you pursue this, Greg, you'll have to kind of kick the tires on whether you do stuff independently or whether you try to sell things to studios. And it's just like the book business, right? It's like, doing a traditionally published book versus doing something self-published or whatever. There's pros and cons of each model, and you just have to kind of kick the tires, see what fits best for you, and move forward accordingly. Like, I can honestly say, I don't know that I'll make an independent movie again, but I'm really glad I did it the one time, because it would have always been an itch that I needed to scratch, and so I'm glad we did it.
Well, here's what I definitely have to ask you, Ted, without giving away all the juicy best bits here. The thing that fascinates me, like one of the things I'm going to experience, which is so small by comparison, but in June, when I go up at the end of June to Wilkes, it's only one other screenwriter in my program. It's my good friend, dude named Brian, who actually lives in Lisbon, Portugal. He was he was an army photojournalist. And he and his wife, he married a gal from India. They've got a beautiful little, I think, 2-year-old girl, and they're living in Lisbon. And so, it's so cool that he's part of the program, right? And we talk every week and compare projects and that sort of thing. So they're going to read, basically Act 1 in a table read. So Wilkes hires actors and all that stuff. So
that's super cool.
Just exciting to kind of, not see it, but hear it, hear the dialogue, get, action down, my mentor will actually read all that stuff. But what's it been like for you? Because obviously the story you wrote, this screenplay, you've got a picture in your mind, and now you've seen it, right? Or it sounds like you've seen the bulk of it.
Yeah, I've seen rough cuts. We got 2 pretty much complete rough cuts.
So what is that like for you? Is it, that's not how I pictured it? Or, wow, that's exactly how I pictured it? I'm just curious what the experience was like.
You know what? It was a thrill. And I remember the thrill that I got when I first saw Glenn, my friend, who's a very fine actor, read. He just like screen tested one of my scenes, and he sent it to me on his iPhone. And I was like, man, this is in the same like species of buzzes that I've had before, but it's a different kind of buzz. Wow. It was a different kind of buzz than seeing your article or your book out there or whatever. So it was different. And seeing it come to life on the set and then seeing it on a screen via these cuts, it's a thrill, man. And I can honestly say, cinematographer, director, producer, they really brought my vision to life, so the scenes, and we were at the mercy of some things. I mean, being that it was Michigan in November, I mean, it rained 10 days in a row. We had the Silverdome for 10 days. It rained the whole time. Oh my goodness. Of course. Yeah. And so, some of the stuff we thought we'd shoot outside, we had to shoot inside. And so we had to, and there was no running water, no electrical at the Silverdome. We had to bring all that in with generators and the whole thing. So it was a Herculean undertaking, but they did an awesome job with it, and it was a dream come true to see it come to life. And it'll be fun to see it on the screen. But I think, in a way, I've already had my fun with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like just seeing my friends act it out and do it well, and seeing him act opposite, somebody who's a pro and was so legit. And seeing my friend Chris produce the thing and really be in his element. That's the thrilling stuff. And then, Lord willing, if it ever makes it to a screen or a streaming platform, that'll be kind of cool too.
Wow. So I've got to ask you, Ted, what is your take? I'll preface this by saying I've had a few of our listeners challenge me, and rightly so. I've probably been so jaded on Christian films, and I've heard you talk about this on some other podcast platforms through the years. You know, we can go back to the early Mark IV productions, you know, Razor buzzing in the sink, Thief in the Night, and all the iterations of Christian filmmaking. Just how are you feeling about the state of, you know, Christian movie making today? I'd love to get your take on that.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel anything about it. You know, it's weird. Like, you know, you're a little bit older than me, Greg, and Nathan. I'm not sure where you are in life as far as having kids and career and stuff like that. But I and this is going to sound like I'm copping out of the question, but I think it'll make sense. I feel very busy in that, you know, I've got a kid who's a junior in college, a kid who's a junior in high school. You know, I'm kind of squarely middle-aged, mid-career. So you've got people depending on you for things. And I mean, you're the guy that gets the call when the tire goes flat or when something needs to be fixed in the house. And, you know, my life is really full. Yeah. And so, I mean, my wife and I, God bless her, we get to the end of the night and we watch like 30 minutes of a show and we're tired. So it takes us like 2 years to get through a season of a show. So like, you know, we're just not these kids anymore, like crushing 3 hours of TV at the end of the night. Yeah. So I honestly don't know what I think about Christian movies and media because I haven't seen a whole lot of them. You haven't
seen them? Okay.
No, I haven't seen them. And I the last thing I kind of remember drifting through my transom, I guess, would be like I don't know, there were those guys that were making those movies, and one of them was about football, and it looked honestly really crappy. Yeah. So I didn't see it, but I just made fun of it. Yeah. So that, I guess that was my last go around with it. But,
I get it. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that my guess is your faith. How do I want to phrase this? You don't impress me as the guy that's using your love of writing, in this case, screenplay, this project we've talked about, as a vehicle to quote unquote, you know, have a scene where you present the gospel. You know, like that was always my frustration with Christian movies. Sure. So long as it always seemed somewhere between, I don't know, page 70 and 95, there's the mandatory gospel explanation scene, which makes me feel like, you know, this isn't a very holistic picture. It's kind of just a vehicle for preaching. And I love preaching. Obviously,
so do I.
Preaching. I know you do too. But that's my sense from you, Ted, is that your faith and your worldview is likely baked in like a good bread, right? So I would hope
so. And it's interesting that you say that. So I have two things on this. One is that I agree, and I think where Christian media traditionally in the past has gone wrong has been they start with a message and then reverse engineer a story to fit it. And that never goes well. And what's interesting about that, you guys, is that's exactly what sort of the world is doing now. So, except it's a different message, right? The message is some super leftist cultural thing or whatever. And then they're kind of reverse engineering a story to fit it. And it's every bit as crappy as the stuff that we were doing when we were doing that.
It's a great,
you know, so that's kind of ironic. We've kind of landed in the same bad place in terms of that. And then, gosh, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, the other thing I was going to say, just by way of an interesting observation, is that to your point about sharing the gospel, I find that in almost every written thing, like column or book, I'm trying to do that more explicitly now than I ever did. You know, because it was sort of cool as a Gen Xer, kind of in the early 2000s, to be super coy about it. Like, and I found myself, I was almost like coy to a fault. You know, like I was so coy, I would almost never get around to mentioning it, to my shame. You know, and it's like I don't know if you call it maturity or I've grown more sentimental in my old age, but man, I feel this sense of my days are limited, my time's limited, my writing opportunities for sure are limited. Yeah. So I want to make the most of them, and as it serves the piece, I want to share the good news. You know,
I love it. Yeah, I wrote a little devotional last year, Nathan, and I never list it like Matt wants me to, because it's CFC publishing, which just means it's self-published. Our church did it, and it was just a little 40-day Devo for preparing for Easter, right? And yes, I loved it. I loved it because it's to me, it's just an upfront book. Hey, here's the purpose of this book. This is to call attention to Jesus. This is him on the road to Jerusalem, and that was kind of the motif that we used to kind of frame the book. And it's just a short little daily devo. And I know what you mean. I'm 53. I'm going to put you. I'm going to wait. I should be able to figure this out. You should be 47.
Yeah, I'm actually 48. Just turned 48.
Man, I was close. I was just doing our little what happened in 1984 with the Colts, but I don't want to go back to that.
Yeah.
And Nathan is 42.
Yep.
Right. So
okay.
42.
We got just a little 10-year range here with Ted kind of
nice.
In between us. But I'm so with you, Ted, on just your desire. To me, when you get the opportunity and it's natural and it's clear, hey, this is what I want to share. No pretense.
Yeah.
I just want to put it out there for you to consider. But when you're doing something more artistic, I don't know, it just feels different, right?
Well,
and
it does.
I love that tension that you introduced.
I mean, the reality is a good story is going to have elements that everyone can connect to, right? Good and evil. There's some kind of victory over evil, whatever form that takes. There's some kind of hope in there. I think one of the exceptions that I think of, right? Did you guys ever see a movie called Arlington Road?
Yeah,
I never saw it.
So Jeff Bridges, Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
It's got a very, it's a fascinating movie, but it's not a movie that I want made all the time.
Right. Well, without giving it away, dude, because Ted might want to see it. The ending.
Yeah.
The ending is unique.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, but it's not the movie I always want made, right? I want the movie made that has those themes, and if those themes are done in a particularly interesting way, I'm going to gravitate toward it, and it doesn't have to have an overtly quote unquote Christian message, right? I was talking to my students the other day and quoting that very famous line, all truth is God's truth.
Yeah.
And so if the truth that we seek in humanity is placed into our stories, then there are aspects of the gospel that will naturally shine through without the gospel actually being taught or preached.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
Well said.
Yeah. Yeah, well said indeed.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time, Ted, and I think you guys too. I don't know, the story, I just love how it's stamped, and I'm sure you've done exercises like that, and because you're Union is a Christian college, correct?
We are, yeah.
Yeah. So you can probably be more just upfront about it, but just how many stories that it finds its way into. We Shawshank, Two of Kings, the Green Mile. There's just so much great stuff in there.
Dude, all right, I got one for you on this level that I want to see if you guys have seen this. Have you seen a movie called Warrior? Tom Hardy, Nick Nolte.
Yes.
I have.
Yeah, dude.
I've heard of it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, it's so redemptive. I think it's the most kind of sneakily Christian secular thing I've maybe ever seen. It's this like amazing tale of like family sin and brokenness and redemption. There's this little crackle of redemption at the end, and gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up, Warrior, and it's I'm looking at something else because this is an MMA thing. It's actually a cage fighting movie, which I'm not an MMA guy. I'm a boxing guy, but I put that aside and love this movie.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is a really good story in that regard, and the struggle that occurs throughout the entire movie. It's not. And what's neat is the ending is realistic, right? It's not like this sappy, like typical ending. It's like, oh, there's still things going on here. This is still reality. This is still life. Greg and I were talking about a movie called, did you see the Holdovers with Paul Giamatti?
Oh, loved it. Yeah, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, and one of the things we said is it was a satisfying ending, but it's not necessarily an ending I would call happy, right?
Yes,
it's because it's life, and I think The Warrior has that same element to it.
I just added
sure does.
2011.
Yeah, Warrior is about how repentance is one thing. So the Nolte character is very repentant, and it seems to be very genuinely repentant, but like reconciliation can be a long, painful road that feels risky for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and I think to your point, Nathan, that's real. You know, that's life. We've all lived it on either side of it. You know.
Yeah.
Love it. Gotta check it out. One last question, Ted, because I know we're almost out of time. Who are some of your favorite filmmakers, writers, just any? Throw out a couple.
Yeah.
I want to know what's in the Kluck brain here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll give you a couple of writers, like book guys first, and then we can go movie guys. So book guys, David Foster Wallace.
Yeah.
Great, amazing practitioner of creative nonfiction, the personal essay, the long interview, you know, really all of it, everything he did at a super high level, just a freak show with the language, so talented. Wrote the great American postmodern novel, Infinite Jest, is just a banger, 1,200 page monster, but so funny and so good and so honestly, like, prophetic to what we're living right now.
Yeah.
He set that novel in the indiscriminate future, and much of what he kind of projected we're going through. Yeah. Just in terms of this entertainment culture that where basically if like weed and porn got any more prevalent, like people would cease to leave the house and live. And I think that's actually what's happening, you know, like we're experiencing that now. So he had that dialed. But I love Wallace. I love this music writer and kind of sometimes sports writer named Chuck Klosterman.
I've seen his stuff.
He's got some great books, man. Check out just some of his collections. Some of them are features, long interviews. He's got a novel called Downtown Owl, kind of about small town life that I love, and super, super clever, fun read. Klosterman. Movie wise, I'm a big Cameron Crowe guy. Do you like Cameron Crowe? Do you guys like him? Yeah. So Jerry Maguire, Singles. Elizabethtown. I'm a big Elizabethtown guy. Not a lot of people are. I love that movie. So big Cameron Crowe guy. I enjoyed kind of the beginning and middle part of Wes Anderson's career.
Okay.
The last couple Wes Andersons haven't really done it for me, but great middle part of the career.
Yeah, I didn't see the one that came out this summer. What is it? Asteroid City?
Asteroid City. Yeah, I got through like 45 minutes of it. It was way up its own backside.
Gotcha.
And you can cut that out if you need to. But it was pretty horrendous. Another filmmaker I'm kind of digging here in like late career is Tarantino.
Yeah.
Late career Tarantino to me has been a really fun time. So Inglourious Bastards, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah. Thank you, Ted. I am the sole defender of that movie among so many groups that I connect with.
Really? I
don't know what it is. I loved Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Me too. I get a huge kick out of it. It's and to me, let me know what you think about this. You could lop off the last 15 minutes and it wouldn't even matter. To me, that's a movie about male friendship. It's a movie about being friends with another dude, about loyalty and talking and spending time together and just what that all looks like. Yeah, in fact, the whole Manson murder subplot or whatever was kind of ancillary to me on that one.
I agree.
Yeah.
In fact, it's interesting. You're right. It is only about 15 minutes. It's not, I mean, if you think of a third act, quote unquote, being 30, in the most traditional sense, it is, almost postscript. Not quite, but I'm with you. I thought Pitt and DiCaprio, Rick Dalton.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Incredible.
All that charisma on screen at one time. Get out of town, dude. That was outrageous.
Thank you, Ted. The whole podcast has now been redeemed from our bad start. Our
all right, man. So we're back. We're back on good terms.
Been redeemed. But I have to ask you about another Anderson. That would be Paul Thomas Anderson. Magnolia. There Will Be Blood. Does that float your boat or no?
No, not really. I'm not a big PTA guy. Although I did enjoy Licorice Pizza.
Oh, the one I haven't seen.
Licorice Pizza. It's kind of fun.
Things. Yeah.
It's set in the 70s. It's kind of nostalgic. Nothing really happens, but I say that in the most affectionate way possible. Sometimes I don't need anything to happen,
Right.
Yeah, which is probably my downfall as a screenwriter.
Dude, I have a buddy. I think I've quoted this, Nathan. We actually had one of your old associates on a couple of times. Early Happy Rant guy in Altrogi. And
Trogs, yeah.
So funny. We had him on to talk about Stephen King, because I knew he's quoted King several times, and we talked about that. And I think I might have dropped it on this. My friend Todd, who's a big King reader, said, Dutcher, sometimes I love how King writes ordinary, real life so well that sometimes when I'm 50 pages into the book and he gets to the thing, I'm kind of disappointed.
Dude, I get it. I totally get it.
Because he writes just the guy waking up and his morning routine and eating his cornflakes and, I don't know, the dog peeing in the neighbor's yard. There's all these little great moments that are so textured and relatable.
Indeed.
And then he introduces the weird portal to another dimension or something. And, he says, I'm still in, but I almost miss it. And I know what you mean. I can watch a movie. I felt that way about Garden State. My daughter didn't like it. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. Not much happens in it, but I was just kind of intrigued by it.
I saw it a super long time ago. I got to talk about one more filmmaker, though.
Yeah.
And it's Nora Ephron.
Oh, yeah.
She did the run of like 90s rom-coms. Yeah. Those New York rom-coms. I love Nora Ephron. I teach her in my screenwriting class. Just a master of the craft.
Absolutely.
You've Got Mail, absolute tier one for me, rom-com. So so those are a few that I've been enjoying.
I love that Ted ended with Nora Ephron, man. No, she's great. In our screenwriting foundations, we watched You've Got Mail, and honestly, going into it, I was like, man, I don't want to watch this. It's kind of my, I'd rather watch Joe versus the Volcano or Sleepless, but honestly, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
it's so great.
Just to me, what a showcase of storytelling. Right?
Indeed.
You're just so invested in those characters.
Yeah, I mean, it's a movie about sending emails, basically, and she makes it super interesting and amazing.
It's her early email, too, right? It's like 98, maybe, I think.
Yeah.
So,
tremendous.
This was a blast, man.
Likewise. Enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for joining us. Absolute great time. We are going to go ahead and sign off now. Guys, until the next time, we just rock the Casbah. Thank you again for listening to These Go to 11, an unchurchy conversation about everyday faith. Once again, please make sure you like, subscribe, and review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you ever find yourself in the Forest Hill, Maryland area, please feel free to stop by at 135 Industry Lane, and you can get all of our service times and information at christfc.org.
These Go to 11.